to another episode of How to Demean Women and Look Good Doing It. I'm Josh.
No. That's the opposite of what we're doing.
I thought we were talking about Thunderball.
Oh, yeah, there is no difference, is there? What's with the eye patch? Did you shoot your eye out with that gun? Did you get that BB Rider you always wanted for Christmas?
You know a lot about guns, don't you, Mr. Kohler?
No, I know a lot about your mom, though.
Wow.
Savage indeed.
Thunderball!
Thunderball!
The underwater extravaganza.
Yeah.
So, what did you think this time around?
I like it more.
He likes it more? I like it a little less.
I mean, not by much. I remember the underwater sequence being a lot longer, but upon closer inspection, there's enough things happening in it that you're drawing your attention to. I think it's like the lack of dialogue, obviously, because it's underwater. But like the lack of dialogue.
I mean, there's that great underwater sex scene that just is bubbles, and it's like,
talk about discreet.
How did that happen? But
compared to the sex scene at the beginning of the movie, which is the clear opposite end. But the movie itself, I feel like the first 40 minutes of the whole film drags on a little too long. It's almost kind of unnecessary.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I remember the ending sequence feeling a lot longer, and this time around I'm like, oh, it's not that long. But then I'm thinking, like, oh, the beginning is just so long, and, like, there's so much, like, that we don't need.
It drags because it's like they're showing us... Well, there's that whole subplot about the plane being underneath. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there's cool stuff, that's interesting things, but by the time we get around to actually seeing it near the end of the movie, we're like, did we need to see it? I mean, we could just be told, hey, by the way, there's a plane at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, like, the first 40 minutes is all like, oh, this is Spectre, and this is how they operate, and, like, here's all the details of how they do their thing, and, like, okay, and, like, oh, here's the plane, and here's them covering it, and then, like, here's this music, and them covering it. I'm like, well, what if we just find it at the same time that James Bond finds it? And, like, you could start this movie, like, way later, 40 minutes later, 30 minutes later, and it just cut out most of that beginning. Like, it's just...
Yeah, it's not till...
It's fluff, and it's...
Yeah, it's not until 40 minutes in that Bond actually gets his mission.
Yeah, they're like, oh, they got nukes, they're gonna kill us all, unless... And they're like, all right...
That should happen at the 20
That could be
mark.
like that. So I was thinking of the great Bond classic Moonraker, where they literally hijack the shuttle like right away. Like they could hijack the nuclear missile right away, and then cut to like M being like, "All right, Bond, go do your work." Like,
but there was also like I was suggesting that the movie that I think of is Batman Begins, where they talk about how that is that microwave emitter that is it was. Are you okay there?
it's as I don't know how people do this.
It's all for the sake of theatrics. I was thinking of Batman Begins where they steal that microwave emitter thing. And instead of us seeing everything happen at this is how they stole it, this is how they did it. Instead, what we get is a guy who said, it was on a ship en route. Then we see it happen. And it looks like it was seeing it be turned on and exploded. And it's like, that's a little bit more interesting to get to the point of what happened. Instead, what we get is, instead of being told that this happens, we just see this long, drug-out
Yeah, and we
moment.
know that Spectre is evil, and they're, like, widespread, and they can do basically whatever they want. Like, I think as an audience member, we accept that. If we just hear, like, this dude petting his cat and cackling and explaining his plan in, like, a sentence or two, all right, we get it, you hijacked a nuke. Like, we don't have to see all this stuff.
Yeah.
Aside from that in the opening, there's a lot that's kind of fun, but, like, not needed.
Like what?
Everything where he's, like, rehabbing. I don't care about any of that, to be
Yeah.
honest. I mean, like,
Yeah,
there's some
that's
good
true.
lines and some good moments, and there's certainly moments of man talk.
Probably more aggressive than Goldfinger.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it. I mean, he's like, I'm in rehab, I'm flirting with you. She's like, I'm no nonsense, I'm doing my job. There is no hint of her flirting with him at all. And he just, like, goes in for the kiss. And she's just like, Mr. Bond, stop it.
She's, like, tasing him, and he's like, I'm immune to your tasing.
And like now I'm looking at it like, oh,
and then
dear
he blackmails her.
Yeah.
Oh, I could get you fired. And she's like, what? I have kids and stuff. He's like, well, see you in the hot tub, Tootsie.
It's so awful.
It's just like, yeah. And then later they like make up. He's like massaging her with his mittens.
But what about this is actually moral and ethical?
It's completely unnecessary. Like, the only thing he gets out of this interaction is he asks her about the guy who's being cloned or whatever. It's like, God, we have so many instances of Bond, like, charming the panties off of, like, nice young women. Like, why can't he, like, convince her to like him? Why does he have to be forceful?
Yeah.
Or what if, like, one time, like, 007 has to just, like, keep it in his pants and, like, restrain himself and be very methodical about his trainer or whatever. You know, like, I just...
See, that's why I appreciate Daniel Craig. I appreciate Daniel Craig in Casino Royale. We'll get to that eventually, but it's like, yes, he uses his charm to influence that the Hispanic woman. And yeah, he could be going down on her, but he's like, no, I got business. Bam, done. It's like he doesn't have to use...
Right, this has nothing to do with the mission.
Right,
like,
it's just him blackmailing somebody to get laid. Like,
yeah.
That's the problems of the day. Well, the sad thing is it still happens, but you know, it is what it is. But let's go forward to the actual... let's talk about the plot of Spectre. Is that it starts out with this guy who he's like, I don't know, he's in bed with somebody, and then there's a guy that looks exactly like him. I don't remember the names off the top of my head, but it's like, okay, you got this little bait and switch guy, and he's actually infiltrating the plane. But I'm more interested in the woman, because the woman was like obviously she was very attractive, but at the same time her character was so, like, she's kind of like James Bond in the same realm, because she even like seduces him. And she seduces him to the point where she's like, oh, okay, I'm going to take control here. But I love that little snippy line he gives her. He's like, oh, you think I got pleasure out of that?
Yeah, I just did this for king and country. Yeah, no, I think aside from the blackmailing sex portion of the film, there are two really solid female leads in this. Domino, the sister of the guy who is supposed to or the guy who's cloned to hijack the plane. And... Fiona, who is kind of like the Bond equivalent for Spectre, who just sleeps with anyone. And
Fiona's my favorite in this movie.
Yeah, she's pretty badass. She's.
It all leads up to that scene where they're dancing and like he has no way out, and like all of the henchmen are all around like, oh yeah, there's no way out of this. And then the gun appears, and you thought it was Felix, but
for a second, yeah, I was confused for a minute. Because the way that scene plays out, like, he escapes right after that. But I'm like, no, I think he just turns her at the last second. It's a little clunky.
It still feels fun. Because, I mean, that's the escapism part of it. I mean, no one will actually have the timing down in their head like, I think he's going to shoot right now.
And then he covers the wound and puts her down. And he's like, oh, she's just dead. It's like,
she needs a rest.
So there are a lot of little moments that, like, I'm mixed on this movie because there are a lot of great moments and there are some cool parts, like the triangle between Largo, Bond, and Domino. They're all kind of playing off of each other, and they have their own motivations, which play out in a very interesting way, in my opinion. A lot of like unnecessary things and slow. But
I think if you chopped up if you take out all the small bits that just are kind of dull, kind of boring, it's like you got a pretty fun movie in there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
It still feels better than Dr. No, in my opinion.
To me, it's okay. It's all kind of like summed up in the opening. Like as soon as he grabs that jetpack, you're like, all right, the formula is being like exploited.
And as much as I love the jetpack, it's never used again in the whole film.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, so there's where your budget went for something fun to see right off the bat.
Yeah, like we have this great little like fight sequence in there, and then he's like, oh, I have to throw roses on you real quick.
Yeah,
which is fine. Whatever.
He does that a couple times in the movie. He's like, I could be killed right now, but he's like, you know what? I'm gonna be a little sassy and throw roses over. And then
later he like goes and like grabs some grapes. He's like, I'm kind of hungry. But like, listen, dude, you gotta get out of here. You don't have time to like throw roses and be. I mean, it's funny, but.
He's got some of the best one-liners in this movie too.
Yeah, he's very sassy, but
especially when he finds Fiona in his bathtub and she's like, "Could you give me something to put on?" And he's like, "Here's your shoes, put them on." Yes, the man we want to be, but not the bad parts.
Not all of it.
Not all of it.
Not
majority of it. The confidence.
Not my pure male fantasy.
No, the confidence is good. We all love that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like some of it's a little over the top, and I think this film just kind of takes the formula and kind of goes with it, for better or worse. We have the sharks with frickin' laser beams attached to their heads. I wish they were.
I mean, yeah, that would have been.
Like there was that moment where they're like, oh, let's like gun down Bond and whoever unnamed henchman. He's like, no, wait, I have a better idea. Let's plan this elaborate death for him. Like, let's let the sharks come out and maybe he'll escape. And,
typical henchman, just having fun.
So it's just like,
all right.
It's James Bond now, but.
The one thing I wasn't a fan of in this movie is the music at some parts. Like, remember I was pointing out how it had that like nice.
I'll do the one part. Yeah.
It's like they just clash, and I'm like, this doesn't feel right at all. But all right, we'll roll with it. I don't even know if that was the right part that I was doing. It wasn't that far off.
The correct effect.
It's the feel that we were going for there. I love that you have that boardroom, and it shows like how, I don't want to say maniacally evil, but I just love the fact that every chair has like electrocution sections to it. So if he's like, yeah, I'm not really satisfied with your work.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of, I don't know. There's something about it that it's over the top evil, but somehow it feels fun.
Yeah, so Largo,
he's a decent enough villain.
He's decent. I will say he's decent. I would put him kind of in the middle. He has some interesting moments. Like, I like how all these people die around him, and he's in the trenches, like he's in the water, although we're not really sure. Like,
you can't really tell.
We don't really know if it's him or not. Like, wait, is that him or who's that? And like,
the only one you can point out is James Bond because of the green stuff that comes out.
But we see him go down and kill the one guy, and like he's got an eye patch, and you never know why.
Yeah.
But like the guy's electrocuted, he doesn't even blink.
Okay, whatever. Another day at the office.
He's willing. The one guy who sneaks into Bond's hotel, he's just like, yep, kill him, whatever.
Yeah.
And he's some really cool scenes with Bond, like when he invites him to lunch, and they have their little thing over Domino. Like, I love the scene where they're shooting the clay pigeons. He's like, I don't know guns, but I know women, or whatever we just did.
He's like, have you ever had a gun? Well, no, I've never tried it before. Oh, I guess it's not that hard.
Yeah. Like, it's just like a really nice pissing contest, which I like. Say that kind of thing, but like, he kind of falls flat towards the end of the movie, in my opinion. Like,
yeah.
And then like the end fight, like he's in the water, I guess, and then he's driving the boat,
which is very cartoony, by the way.
Yeah, like,
because when you look outside the window from the inside of the ship, you see the edited footage of it being sped up outside, and it's just like they're trying to turn, but it's like
it's
just like all over the place.
It's too much. I get they were like trying to compensate for the time. It's just like, and he's just kind of there, and he pulls his gun, and like I like that Domino shoots him because he was such a bastard to her.
Yeah.
But it's a little anticlimactic because Largo doesn't do anything like all that exciting by that point. And he's just kind of there, and he dresses nice, and he smokes a lot. Some good, some bad. It's.
I still think it's better than Dr. No, though.
It's flashier. They certainly made use of their budget, I think.
I think that's what it is for me.
And they've definitely refined the formula by this point. Maybe overstepped it in some areas, but it's a solid entry despite its issues, and it's despite being probably 20 minutes too long. I love, women kind of like crushing Bond's ego.
Yes.
And then he has to be like, well, I didn't really like it. And she's like,
sure you didn't.
I got under your skin. And he's like, nope, man talk.
Yeah, she was like, you like women that are wild? He's like, oh, you need to be in a cage. Oh, I love it. Great times.
Yeah. So I don't know.
What score would you give it?
3-ish, 3.25. I mean, I would put it probably in the top half of Bond films. I think this time around it felt a little flat in some areas, a little formulaic. There's some really good moments, but there's a lot of flat for me. So I'm just going to say I would put it in the top half.
Okay. I'm trying to be as consistent as I can with my scores because I did say it's better than Dr. No.
It's too late for that.
The fact I said Dr. No at 3.5, I'm going 3.75 because I do think there are things that make it better, and I do, like I said, I did enjoy this one a little bit more this time around, and
You like the jetpacks and the jetpacks.
just more Domino.